Thank you for taking your time to check out my mini story. I do hope you enjoy it. Shadows over Raven Hill. In the ancient and war-torn world of Azeroth, where heroes and villains clash in the eternal struggle for dominance, there exists a darkness that lurks beneath the surface, unseen by all, but most perceptive. Undead are hardly anything new in Azeroth, although the younger folk know them mostly from old tales of wars from the Age of the Scourge, where Azeroth almost met his match. And scary bedtime stories used to keep the children from leaving their homes at night. Deep within the haunted forests of Duskwood, where the moon casts an eerie glow upon the twisted trees, and the air is thick with the stench of decay, lies the abandoned village of Raven Hill. Once a bustling community filled with life and laughter, it now stands as a grim reminder of horrors that lurk in the shadows. It is here that our story begins, with a young paladin named Talas, whose unwavering faith and a sense of duty led him to the haunted village, in search of evil to vanquish and souls to save. Talas, strong in fate, has never had a chance to put his training to the test. Sure, he helped folk deal with local bandits, he assisted the militia several times in a cargo recovery operations from a local kobold gangs, and faced things like bears or wolves. But that wasn't what he trained for. He took pride in his achievements, yes, but if he wanted to do that, he could have become a guard. No, that was not what his training was for. He still bears the scar on his right cheek, just below the eye, a horrid reminder of the dreadful night. He grew up as a young lad in Westfall. Back in the day, brigands were fewer, although their presence could still be felt, the notorious Defias gang. Brigands rarely troubled them as they were very poor, and there is no use in plundering those who have nothing to give. What would they even steal, right? One night, though, a terrible storm came from the sea, and a knock on the door later, a figure of a young slim woman, wrapped in rags, was visible on their doorstep. His father, being a kind man, let her in. He wanted to help the poor girl. His heart was kind, and he had good intentions. And kind heart and good intentions was really how he remembered his parents. Unfortunately, it turns out that the girl they sheltered from the storm was possessed. He had never seen anything like it. One moment a shivering child, barely older than him. The next, a laughing, screeching banshee, twice as tall as a grown man, with a razor-sharp talons and a spectral hair that danced around her ghastly form. The fireplace immediately went dark, and her scream made him sick. His poor mother was struck where she stood, piercing with the ghastly claws. His father, a rather burly man, very strong, was thrown across the room like a rag doll. In mere seconds, he had lost everything. His last memory was a hideous, elongated face, looking at him, staring down with a terrible grin, and a claw-like finger cutting his right cheek. He was paralyzed. He couldn't move. He couldn't blink. He couldn't even let out a scream. It was all over. A blinding light suddenly filled the room as doors burst open and the night charged. Eyes glowing yellow like the sun, and his booming voice was deafening. He held words young Talas could not understand, and rammed the creature with all his might. The young boy fell to the ground. His vision was fading. That is his last memory of his childhood, of that terrible night. Next years he spent in the chapel, training under the Paladins of the Silver Hand Order. He shook his head. Enough of this. He was here for a reason. As Talas made his way through the mist-shrouded streets, a sense of unease washed over him, as if the very air itself was alive with some sort of malevolent intent. But he pressed forward, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword, ready to confront whatever darkness awaited him. Everything here was wrong. The woods were dead silent. It was unnatural. His lantern barely cast any light in this place. As he explored the abandoned buildings, his footsteps echoing through the silence, Talas comes upon the decrepit old inn, nestled at the edge of the village. Intrigued, he steps inside, his eyes scanning the dusty shelves and rotting furniture for any sign of evil lurking within. At the first sight, it merely looked like an abandoned old inn. Cobwebs everywhere, furniture scattered about, and the creaking woodboards, not maintained in a very long time, creaked under his boots. A dream led him here. A dream. What nonsense, he thought. Following a dream like that. He had better things to do. But that same dream haunted him for months. He had to make sense of it. And why this place? He had never been here before. Yet again, every room, every nook and cranny matched his dreams perfectly. He started going through the rooms, searching the old bookcases and night tables. But as he searches, the feeling of dread washes over him, as if unseen eyes are watching his every move. And then he hears it. A soft whispered voice, barely audible above the sound of his own heartbeat. "Leave this place, mortal," the voice whispers, cold and menacing. "You tread on a ground that is not yours to claim." Talas' grip tightens around his sword, his resolve unshaken by the creature's words. With a voice filled with righteous fury, he responded, "I am Talas, champion of the light, and I will not be swayed by the likes of you. Show yourself, fiend, and face the judgment of the righteous." He could barely believe the words he just uttered. He didn't think he was capable of such bravado. A cold laugh followed in response. Could the creature sense fear? He made sure he didn't show any. He knew that he must not. And there, standing before him, is a figure cloaked in shadow. Its outline undefinable, barely visible, constantly shifting. Its eyes burned with the otherworldly light. It was a wrath, a creature of darkness and despair, whose very presence fills Talas with a sense of dread, unlike anything he has ever known. Countless tomes he read upon them. There was no mistaking it. Darkness and despair. You fight darkness with light. You face despair with conviction. With a roar of defiance, Talas charged forward. "Ignir Altes!" His words sounded like an echo. He felt warmth flowing through his body back and forth, crackling like lightning within his arm, his sword ablaze with a holy light and fire as he lashed out the wrath with all his might. The creature hisses and recoils, its form flickering and wavering as it struggles to maintain the hold on a mortal realm. A small part, just in the place he struck, was now empty, like the shadows separated, and they could not restitch together. The creature shrieked, and Talas felt the blood dripping from his nose. His mind was filling with the terrible images of death, torture, decay, blood. It was a mind blast. He recognized the symptoms. He quickly moved to the side, flanking the creature, closing his mind, repeating the chants he learned as a squire over and over again. Suddenly, visions of daylight, visions of merchant, gods, children playing in the cathedral district filled his mind. They were so happy, so serene, so safe. Safe. They were safe. They must stay safe. The gates. Close them. Close it now. A steel wall wrapped around the young paladin's mind, and he could feel the creature's attack waning. His hands were trembling, but he did not relent, his blows raining down upon the wrath with the fury of a storm. With each strike, he feels the power of the light coursing through him, banishing the darkness that threatened to consume him. And finally, with a triumphant cry, Talos delivers a killing blow, his sword piercing the shadowy form and banishing it back to the realm of the damned. It was not over, he knew that much. Such creature is bound to this world by a great tragedy and very powerful magic. But it was gone, at least for the time being. As the last echoes of battle fade away, Talos stands victorious, his heart filled with both purest of triumphs and fear. He didn't know if he was to feel happy or scared. Maybe he felt both. He remembered his mentor's words. For in the world of Azeroth, Talos, there are different forces, far more ancient and sinister than any mortal would ever imagine. And it is the duty of the righteous to stand against them, my boy. Our duty. No matter the cost. With a wavery smile, Talos repeated the words, no matter the cost. With a swift turn he left the inn, making his way back to the world of the living, knowing that his battles were far from over. But as he walked beneath the moonlit sky, he knows that he has proven himself worthy of a title of a Paladin, defender of the light, the protector of all that is good in the world. If only for the day, if only in this moment. Before this, he did not know what his dream meant, but now he understood. It was duty. He was called, and he answered. He was measured and found worthy. And now he understood how close he was to falling into the shadow. He knew that he must not relent.